The convent and the cloister. In the center of the panel, the plan and the facade of the church are shown. On the left side, the essential historical information of the building and the key. While on the right side, the church plan and the annexed cloister. Historical introduction. The building is located on the road to Nardò, today Via Leuca. It was for the first time mentioned as a church outside the urban walls in 1557. It was probably built even before that date, as it preserves a late Romanesque style in its essential lines. Over time, it took on various titles: Saint Rocco, Saint Anthony, and Holy Mary of Grace. As a matter of fact, the supervision of the church was transferred from the main church to the Franciscan order in 1587, inaugurating thus the construction of the annexed convent in 1585. From 1862, following the anti-monastic laws during the Risorgimento, the convent was closed and the friars were definitively forced to leave the building in 1864. In the following years, the supervision of the church was entrusted to the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception, while the convent was administered by the Congregation of Charity, purposely established, that used it as a hospital. Only in 1935 the building was once more transferred to the Friars Minor. The facade of the church. The main facade has a simple design of late Romanic origin. It is made of Carparo stone. The facade shows a single entrance portal aligned with an upper window. On its sides, it is reinforced by two buttresses and it ends with a gabled top. In 1707, the facade was enriched with Baroque decorations. In particular, two fluted columns and an architrave on which the statue of San Rocco and two vases, as well as lateral volutes, were added to the entrance portal. Behind the statue, we can notice the semicircular lunette in late Romanesque style, that once was almost certainly a mural painting. The upper window, on the contrary, shows a Renaissance-style form decorated with simple plant motifs that resemble those in the main church Santa Annunziata. The side view of the church shows single light windows and protruding buttresses. During the 19th century, the Calvary was built against the side wall of the church. The roof of the nave is gabled, externally covered with tiles. The presbytery has a star-vaulted ceiling. On the roof, a small bell gable with two bells. The small bell on the left was made in the first half of the 20th century by the Giustozzo company from Trani, like the one on the tower clock, while the small one on the right is of recent construction. Interior of the church. The plan of the church is rectangular with a single nave. An impressive arch separates the nave from the presbytery. It is a carved stone arch characterized by vegetal decorations similar to those on the arch in the main church Santa Annunziata. The ceiling features exposed wood trusses and ceiling coffers which are finely decorated with geometrical gold leaf motifs. On the right side of the entrance, placed on the wall, there is a plaque commemorating the illustrious Father Giuseppe Maria Moscia, a late 17th century theologian, likely descendant of Girolamo Marciano, as he lived in his house. A marble bust of the friar was also kept here, but in 1950 it was unfortunately lost. The side walls of the nave are characterized by 4 recessed arches which today house the various 17th century paintings of the church. Above them, narrow single-arched stained glass windows depicting Franciscan saints open up to light the interior. Close to the impressive arch, 2 lateral niches house a papier-mâché statue of the Virgin Mary on the left and Saint Anthony on the right. On the arch, you can find a large wall painting made in 1950 by the painter Umberto Colonna. The main altar, set in the center of the presbytery, is entirely made of polychrome marble. On the right side, a large canvas painting depicting the Virgin Mary between Saint Anthony and Saint Francis. Until 1950, a pipe organ and the choir, unfortunately lost during the restoration works, were located at the back of the church. The convent and the cloister. The convent was built against the right wall of the church in a later period, that is, around 1585. A small door leads directly into the cloister, which has a square plan and is characterized by 24 ogival arches resting on columns. The 4 covered walkways are decorated with mural paintings. If we observe the lunettes painted on the west side and compare them with the remaining ones, a clear difference between the 2 pictorial cycles can be noticed. The lunettes on the west side date back to the early 17th century. They depict episodes from the life of Saint Francis. A specific lunette represents the legendary temptation conceived by Frederick II against St. Francis, who had been invited to his castle. The valuable paintings by an unknown author were made with the fresco technique, with predominant blue shades, and almost certainly they were also on the north wall adjoining the church, later hidden by the construction of some rooms. The remaining lunettes, on the other hand, show more reddish shades and were painted with the fresco secco painting technique. They depict saints and biblical scenes made in 1733 by Giovanni Candido. Probably, in its original late Romanesque layout, the church had a contiguous portico on the north wall and along the west side, which was later enlarged with the construction of the other 2 covered walkways. From the cloister, you can reach the upper floor of the convent, which is composed of rooms and small cells.